Fresh killer.
What up, tribe? Oh my goodness, so good to be back on your Zoom screen. And today we have with us the internationally renowned artist, writer, professor, former Jeopardy champion, Miss Ajuan Mance. Why is she here? Well, because she's super cool, folks. And I took her class in grad school and all that. And we've stayed in touch, which goes to how cool she is, because I don't stay in touch with a lot of people. But she's got this book, y'all. She's got this book right here, fresh off the press. And it is called 1001 Black Men Portraits of Masculinity at the Intersections. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Ajuan Mance. How art thou?
I'm pretty good.
Oh,
Excited to be here.
yeah, super excited to have you here. Listen, okay, tell us about this book, Professor, because I see that you've done a lot of painting with it.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of collaborations are happening. What can you tell us about this offering?
Yeah. Well, 1001 Black Men was a project I did for 6.5 years. It was the main thread in my life, drawing all the Black men I could who I ran into in my travels in the Bay Area, but also occasional trips to New York or San Diego Comic-Con. And at the time, I put every drawing up online on a website, 8rock.com, and I had my online blog, and I would write a little bit about each drawing. And now, thanks to Stack Deck Press and the editor there, Tara Avery, it is now a book. And I guess the main thing I want to emphasize for the book is that the book includes all 1001 images. But begins with about 250 featured images divided into sections of the categories of Black men I mostly encountered, elders, folks around Oakland, or hanging out and going about their business on the street, LGBTQ Black youth. For the different categories of Black men, I have invited Black men to bring their voices as writers, activists, and artists into the book, because I felt like that was the one thing that was really missing from the drawing series was, the actual voices of Black men. So I hope to have, really improved on the series by bringing in people like you, Roger, to share your voice.
Hey. Well, since you brought it up, yes, I I have been honored to be a part of this, to write a story called Uncle Red in the text, and you reached out to me a while ago, and I wrote the story, and it was a pleasure because it was based on, like, my uncle. That's not his name, but it was based on my uncle and how he used to swoop us up and take us to the corner store when I was small. And it was special because you had an image that you drew, and a man with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and I was like, that's my uncle. And so I had to bring that there, and I get a chance to read it. Let's pause for the cause and plug, because something really big is happening this Saturday, August 27th. And what is that? Could you tell us about
Yes.
that event?
At the Cartoon Art Museum on August 27th from 4 to 6 p.m., we're having a book launch for 1001 Black Men. And Roger will be reading Uncle Red, and Sean Taylor, who wrote the foreword, will also be present and reading a little bit from the foreword. And so come on out to the Cartoon Art Museum. It's a great place down in the Fisherman's Wharf area. And I also have an exhibit up, and their emerging artist space, and there will be books for sale as well. So, but even if you just come on out, we'll be talking about art, Black men celebrating our community, and I think it'll be a good time.
Oh, it's going to be a great time for sure. My goodness, I am really excited to go. Hey, people, if you have never if you've never heard me read, if you've never done your due diligence and looked up some things that I've read, you want to come out because I've been allotted 10 minutes. Professor Mance will give me 10 minutes to do my thing. So you want to make sure you come out, and then also Ajuan Mance is going to be there. She is going to be signing books, right? She's going to be signing books. There are going to be books for sale, and you want to support this cause. You want to support artists, and you want to support this venture. So please do come through. Now, I have a question for you about it's not just 1,000 Black men, but it's portraits of masculinity,
Right.
and I feel like masculinity has been under attack as of late, right? The past few years or so. And I always hear the term toxic masculinity, but to me, it seems like all masculinity is toxic through the lens of some people. And I feel like, especially with Black men, we bear the brunt of that. Um, just it's almost like the traditional man is if it's they wanted to be dead, like the way that I was raised and playing football and maybe complimenting a woman that you don't know and saying she looked good, all the things that I grew up saying that's what a man would do, is just like all of it is wrong, right? And masculinity needs to be reshaped and reconfigured and reinvented and all of that. But yet and still, your book is centered on masculinity. And I'm wondering, how did that come to be? Why did you think that was important? What was that process like for you to insert masculinity in at the core of this book?
Well, I think that after, really a lifetime of being friends with, family with, community with Black men, not all Black men embrace masculinity. There's gender diversity within Black manhood and masculinity, but
Mhm.
for the most part, most of the Black men I've encountered, and I have a huge extended family too, are people for whom masculinity is part of their identity, and there are so many different ways that Black men manifest what that means, depending on age or profession or part of the country. All of these different things, different generations. I always say, masculinity in and of itself is not toxic. Toxic masculinity is toxic.
Right.
And so, there's toxic femininity as well.
We don't
You
talk
know,
about that though.
no, and I always, bell hooks, the late bell hooks kind of mapped all of this out so well that, when your gender identity keeps you from being who you want to be and healthy and happy and have love and community, then it's not serving you.
Mhm.
But for, I embrace, I mean, there's a lot of beauty and power and love that comes out of masculinity. And that is mostly what I've experienced. Actually, and really, in all honesty, that's what I've experienced from the Black men in my life.
Mm,
And I wanted to celebrate that. Black masculinity has been really demonized. It's been exoticized and
mhm,
commodified and
mhm,
used to sell all kinds of things that aren't really about Black men. And
mhm,
so I wanted to do a collection of drawings that show Black men as Black men are, for without trying to project my needs and interests on African American and Afro diasporic men's lives, and just celebrate Black men. I love Black people, and so in unconditionally, really, I have so much, but it's not well, it is unconditional. I love our history and our culture, and it comes from all these different places. um and I really feel like Black gender is overlooked as something that has value and importance, and so this is a space for that. To look at all the ways in which Black masculinity is something to be celebrated.
mhm. Yeah, and this is since I've known you, like this has been very consistent. You introduced me to Etheridge Knight,
Oh,
and
yes.
and then you also what there was a text, please forgive me, but it was almost like it was almost in the vein of, it was a detective, it was a black detective in Harlem. And
Oh, was that Cotton Comes to, oh, it was either
Cotton Comes to
Cotton
Harlem
Comes to Harlem
or
or
what?
Hunting in Harlem.
It was Cotton Comes to Harlem.
Oh,
That's what,
Chester Himes.
Chester Himes. You introduced me to Chester Himes. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So this really black, almost hyper masculine text.
Oh yeah.
And then Etheridge Cleaver, who was masculine, but a very kind of a sensitive, delicate, very informed and compassionate form
Mhm.
of masculinity. But like you gave me these things, and I'm like, whoa, at Mills College too, of all places. Which the undergraduate institution is all women that have a very strong feminist culture there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just remember in that space, like you giving me those texts, which I still have as part of my personal
That's
library,
awesome.
and I love them, and I love them very dearly. And I'm wondering, with your approach, with your like celebrating of Black masculinity, as you know, an example of it, of course, would be the text, which you all could get. I'll put the link to it in the description. Make sure you get that. Even if you don't come to the event, you can get the book online now. It's only $47. And it's got some great images in there, great writing, and then I'm in there too, so you cannot lose. So with back to you, with you centering, have you received any pushback for kind of embracing Black masculinity as opposed to shunning it or criticizing it, but holding it up as something to be adored and loved within your community? Has anyone come at you with some criticism over that?
Interestingly enough, no.
Okay.
Um, and I think part of it is that I hope that when I have shown large numbers of images and shows, I've done a couple shows in which I've actually shown over 200 images at once. And I think my thought is when people who are not Black men
Mm-hmm.
see that, one of the things that people realize is that whatever they thought was pejorative about Black men and masculinity um, is it's too complicated to project one single image or one single idea or stereotype onto Black men. I want to do that thing that um, one of the best things that I think academic thought has given me is this notion that you don't necessarily take a stereotype and replace it with a positive image. And like,
Mm,
oh, you think this bad thing? Well, actually, everyone is a hero. What you do
mm,
is you say, it's not this one stereotypical thing. It's much more complicated than you could ever understand. And
uh,
so, you walk in and you see 200 pictures of Black men, and well, the first thing that hopefully would be is humbling,
uh-huh,
which you realize, oh my goodness, Black men and masculinity is so much more and so much broader and so much more complex than my stereotyped or narrow ideas might suggest.
mm-hmm,
And I hope this book does that and kind of takes that up to the next level, because all 1001 images are in the book. About 250 featured images with writings like yours. And we have Gabriel Cortez and Trey Keeve, Myron Hardy, Major Jackson, um, an interview with Landon Smith, and with a couple of Black elders, Raymond Holbert, who's an amazing Black artist who's kept a journal for 50 years of writing and images, and then Graylin Thornton, who brings a really different perspective on Black masculinity as
mm-hmm.
a pioneer in the leather community. And then
You'll
Sean
have to
Taylor, of
you'll have
course.
to you'll have to tell me what the leather community.
Oh, it's the LGBTQ community of men who are particularly interested in the aesthetics, kind of hyper masculine performance. So if
Hmm.
you've ever seen, here's a kind of rudimentary explanation. If you ever remember that guy from the Village People in the black leather hat,
Sure.
yeah. So that the community, that community is still going strong, but it's been very, very white for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. And so Graylin Thornton was a pioneer in creating a space for Black men who are interested in the kind of stylized leather dress and kind of hyper masculine performance and the aesthetics of hyper masculinity. And it's really kind of a big community. They do fundraising and also it's it's of course about desire as well. But also activism. So Graylin is I interview him and Raymond Holbert as elders. So there are a lot of Black voices, and the voices are so divergent. I mean, Landon Smith was a Division I football player at
Okay.
the University of Michigan, and is talking to me about what it means to be a Black nerd.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's super cool. Wow. Oh, that's good, man. And you were talking, and then Sean Taylor, of course,
yeah.
is he wrote the foreword, and so it's a very eclectic mix, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I've tried to hit a lot of different bases. I mean, I've drawn on people whose work I'm familiar, with whom I'm familiar, and old friends, and people friends, former students, Major Jackson, who I knew up at the University of Oregon. I of course know you and Landon from Mills. I met Sean Taylor a while back. I remember buying his one of his books way back in the day. And of course he does Black nerd stuff. So I'm so there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's into comic books and all that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's very eclectic. And that's my thing. I just want people to see Blackness and Black men and masculinity the way that I do.
That's
Um
awesome. That's awesome. Okay, for sure. So Saturday, August 27th, it is going down from 4 to 6. Do you have anything else that you're working on?
I do. October 25th, I have another book that's going to be coming out from Chronicle Books. It's called Living While Black: Portraits of Everyday Resistance, and it's a collection of drawings and writings about Black people doing stuff that is not illegal, but that Black people have been harassed, arrested, or even killed for doing.
Mm,
And so it's kind of an illustrated guide to those kinds of incidents and those kinds of actions. And that will, once again, it's actually available everywhere that books are sold, for pre-order. But Living While Black, I'm excited about that project as well. Lots of bright colors. I use a lot of bright colors to draw my Black people.
so it's a graphic novel type situation.
It's a really, I guess I would say it's a weird book. It is kind of that, because for each there's a dictionary definition that I made up for each of these kinds of incidents, for golfing while Black, and being a kid while Black. A to, I don't think it goes all the way to Z. It goes like A to Y. These different kinds of things for which Black people have been arrested or harassed or killed. Um, and each kind of incident has an illustration of a Black person who's thriving and alive and doing these things.
Wow.
But yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, I certainly admire all that you do. We need to support, we need to support Professor Ajuan Mance. And listen, please buy the book once again, 1001 Black Men, Portraits of Masculinity at the Intersection. So make sure you get that book. And then if you can, if you see this in time, Saturday, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. What's the name of the venue again?
It's the Cartoon Art Museum.
The Cartoon Art Museum,
Yeah,
Saturday,
San Francisco.
in San Francisco, Saturday, August 27th. I truly hope to see you there. Professor Mance, is always a pleasure. And peace, tribe. And another one.